we've got, of course, an Irish delegation here in Nigeria. They're going to be focusing a lot on the small, medium enterprises in the country. Yesterday, of course, we spoke with the Irish Minister for Agriculture, the Marine and Food. And today, we have the CEO of Meath Enterprise, Mr. Gary O'Meara. He is in Nigeria. He's been talking with SMEDEN, Small Medium Enterprise Development Agency, and talking about assisting SMEs here in Nigeria. We're very happy to have you, Mr. O'Meara. Good morning and welcome to the show. So Meath Enterprise, what does Meath do?
So basically, Meath Enterprise is a local government-owned enterprise development company. It's not for profit, it's separate to local government, and it's there to support entrepreneurs and startups and SMEs. We do this through developing incubators and enterprise centres and projects like accelerators and hackathons and lots of other things at major events. And we work very closely with government, local, national and international, in order to create channels abroad for our companies and bring companies into the country as well. So anything to do with enterprise development and economic development is our focus.
Hey, you're speaking our language, right? We're happy to have you. So can you talk about your collaborations with SMEDEN here in Nigeria?
Yeah, so basically, look, I'm here in Nigeria to try and build relationships and build collaborations. And, I'm part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network, and I'll touch on that again now in a minute. So basically, I met the Director General Wale of SMEDEN yesterday, and we had discussions about some of the incubators and the accelerators and the projects and services that they provide here in Nigeria through the university programs, but also privately and outside of that. And any gaps that exist that we think we have some expertise and knowledge that we can fill and we can collaborate to help them do their work an awful lot better. But I see lots of scope for collaboration in terms of what SMEDEN are doing and how they can come to Ireland and they can work with us as well. So what we're looking to do is build verified channels where we can collaborate and we can share knowledge, but also potential for funding opportunities down the line to support our companies or for companies to be able to travel back and forth from Ireland to Nigeria. That's the key thing. Very
key. You mentioned the key word there, funding. What kind of conversations have you had about access to finance here in Nigeria? Because it is a big topic.
Yeah, so look, some of the discussions I've had yesterday, I've learned that maybe there's not a lot of access to finance directly for the companies themselves. There is finance and there is funding going into the development of infrastructure and services and projects, from what I can see, and there's some great work being done by SMEDEN. But in Ireland, what we do is we have local government funds and projects for delivering funding straight to the SME and straight to the startup. So they would be early stage kind of seed capital funding, and that would come from government. It would often be match funded in some capacity. So Enterprise Ireland, who are here this week as well as part of the delegation, would have local branches all across the country in the form of local enterprise offices. And we would work very closely with them, and they work from local government to distribute small seed capital and seed funding into startup initiatives and startup projects. And then our job as they grow and start is to help them incubate and make them grow faster and help them scale abroad. So that's certainly a system that works well and something worth looking at over here as well.
So you mentioned government, but there's also a private side that helps with funding in Ireland as well, right? So it's a double combination there.
100%. There's private funding available, but again, in Ireland, we probably have the same challenges you have here in Nigeria. Most of that private funding tends to be focused more on the cities and the urban built-up areas. So regional development, and what we're looking at when we work in food and ag tech and everything, is about trying to disperse that that development and that economic and that funding and everything else across the country equally. So that can be a challenge, but there's plenty of money out there, but it tends to go to the cities, and it tends to go to certain kind of sectors like tech and fintech and sectors that kind of you get a quick return. We want to kind of change that and make sure it goes into food and ag and lots of other things that can be more regionally based. But again, private funders tend to be more interested in investing in the startup ecosystem when government is already putting some skin in the game.
Gotcha.
So that's important, that your government is stepping up and doing something to support startups at the early stage, and that will attract private funders into the market.
Fantastic. I think you mentioned a program that you're here for as well with SMEDEN. You wanted to go over that again as far as what?
Yeah, so we're part of the Global Entrepreneurship Network.
That's it.
And I believe SMEDEN are, so I'll be meeting them again in Australia next week in Melbourne for the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. But we're going to be inviting them over. We're looking for any startups or companies or SMEs that are interested in coming to Ireland for Global Entrepreneurship Week in November as part of our own Meath Enterprise Week. That's the 13th to the 17th. We'll be running some conferences and events, but also sessions and masterclasses to show how Sweden and anyone else that comes over, how we do what we do in Ireland, how you get access to funding, good policy initiatives that tend to work, especially for regional development. So it'll be a bit of a regional enterprise summit, and we're inviting Nigerian companies and startups and anyone in the ecosystem that wants to engage with us to come to Ireland and engage with that. But apart from that, I will be back to Nigeria. I'm here to do business. I'm looking forward to doing business in Nigeria. We're building a global network around a food innovation ecosystem across the globe, just back from Canada and the US, Australia next week. So we'll be connecting the dots globally and working with verified partners on the ground so that Nigeria eventually will have access to the US, China, India, and all different markets from verified partners like ourselves and our friends at Meath.
Excellent stuff. You mentioned food. I really just quickly want to pick your brain on this. Nigeria has double-digit food inflation. The president declared an emergency as far as food insecurity is concerned. How do you think SME, as far as where you're trying to touch on, how do you think one can navigate them out of those headwinds?
Look, I know my minister, Charlie McGonigal, was on here yesterday and you asked him the question. And look, it is something we're dealing with in Ireland as well. It's a global problem at the moment. Thankfully, it seems to be levelling out globally. Yeah. But I think in terms of managing that moving forward, the initiative needs to be taken by the entrepreneurs and the SMEs. Now, in fairness, that does require policy support from your government as well. But the initiative does need to be taken for entrepreneurs to be moving into the right sectors and the right areas in food and building relationships internationally where you can actually scale your companies into foreign markets and not be so reliant on the indigenous ecosystem. Gotcha. And that is going to allow you to control your prices, especially if you can find your consumer directly instead of having to always go through distribution channels locally. So this is the network that we're trying to build. I don't have any magic wand to solve inflation. Right. Unfortunately, it's a global issue, but certainly owning our customer, owning our channels to market, building verified and trusted partners or whatever across the globe is an important part of managing our cost base. And making sure that we can build sustainable businesses in the future. Speaking of sustainability,
I know we only got a couple of minutes to go. You talk about master classes and skill building and so on. The education pipeline, how important is that in terms of feeding these SMEs with the manpower and skill power to scale and so on?
It is very, very important. Look, in Ireland, we have similar problems to what I'm learning here in Nigeria and anywhere in the world as well. We've got a lot of graduates coming out of schools and out of universities that maybe they're kind of educated, they are definitely educated well, but are they educated to go straight into a startup or an SME indigenous ecosystem of some sort, be under pressure, be able to do multiple different tasks? Possibly not. So we deliver a lot of programs in Ireland, Meath Enterprise, to our schools from the ages of 13 to 18 in our second level schools, which I believe Smedden does as well. And we deliver programs to our universities. And we basically take the students and we run enterprise development programs. We show them how to pitch, how to build their business, how to fund their business, market it. And we get them ready to be entrepreneurs. We show them how to be entrepreneurs. We mix them and connect them with real entrepreneurs. Some of the companies coming out of those programs in school or college are getting investment directly from entrepreneurs that we invite into the room to listen to their pitches and see their businesses. So I think, not only should we be focused on developing a talented and skillful workforce, we should also be focused on making that workforce capable of being entrepreneurially sound. Socially conscious is very important. Building companies that are socially conscious, that actually want to make a difference in the world instead of just constantly make a profit. And this is what we should be teaching our kids coming through our schools and coming out of the universities. So our focus on education and developing talent is very strong, but it is a global problem. In Ireland, we've got a lot of companies that just cannot recruit right now. Because the talent and the skills are just not there. Maybe in the cities it's not as bad, but certainly in the regional areas and rural Ireland, it's a big problem, and I believe it is everywhere. The employee is in charge at the moment. You know what I mean? They're turning up and interviewing the employer. There's just not enough talent and skills out there. So from an entrepreneurial perspective, I think we all have a role to play in helping that. Help our students, help our young people of the future be more entrepreneurially minded and creative so that they can go out there and solve problems and do anything.
Great stuff. Look, we're glad to have you, Mr. Gary O'Meara, CEO of Meath Enterprises. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Rose. It's lovely to be here. Thank you.